Yo, what is up guys, and welcome to the F122 settings video. So a lot of people on Twitter and other platforms struggling to get F122 working well. There are a lot of FPS stutters and other issues. So today I'm going to show my settings, as I haven't really had a lot of issues, but I'm also going to give some options to help you fix those issues. So let's head into it. Assist, obviously, it's personal. I use no assist at all. On the on-screen display, KPH, on-screen display in cockpit view is very handy, as by nature it's off. But if you're driving in cockpit cam, it might be nice to have, you know, some MFD. MFD is not the right word, I think so, but have a little bit more info while you're driving in cockpit cam, which is a pretty big disadvantage if you're using cockpit cam and you don't have any info available. So I'll put that to on. Temperature units, obviously degrees, but that depends where you live. Track map, full track map, I feel like is really handy, as you can see where everyone is. But that's just me. Delta time on, proximity arrows, always handy if you're fighting wheel to wheel. Driver tags on. Can turn them off if you find them distracting, especially I tend to struggle to see a brake marker sometimes if they're like in front of it, but depends on what you want. I keep them on. Start lights, pretty handy to have them on. Virtual rear view mirror, I personally don't use it, but you might feel that it comes in handy. I keep it off, I find it distracting. Permanent session timer, I always put it on. Because if you don't have it on, then you only get the last 5 minutes countdown, and especially in qualifying, it's kind of handy to kind of plan your runs in advance and know how much time is left while you're in your in lap, so you know how hard you have to push. Always a display objective panel is for practice sessions and that kind of stuff. Not really important. I feel like for me, on the force feedback, I am using a Fanatec direct drive and Heusinkveld pedals. Now this really depends what wheel you're using. So I would say keep everything on 0. Might play around on the wheel damper between 0 and 20. This is what I personally do as well. It depends per game. Off-track effects, rumble strip effects and on-track effects all on 0. Vibration and force feedback on. And then this really depends what wheel you're using, as a direct drive wheel is very strong, of course. So I use 75 on this wheel, and on a Simucube I would use 55, for example. But then if I would be driving on a Logitech G29, most likely I'll be on 150%. So that's that. Understeer and hands on, so you can feel when the front tires start losing grip. I've always had it on in the past few games. Some drivers turn it off, some F1 Esports drivers turn it off, I think so. But I always keep it on. Maximum wheel rotation, I use 300, but again it's personal. The lower you go, the more responsive the car gets. I like it on 300, but I would say for F1 games between 280 and 360 degrees is the spot to go. 360 degrees, then the real life wheel and the in-game wheel will exactly line up. But I like it a little bit more responsive, so that's why I'm on 300%. Now, calibration is everything on 0, but if your throttle is basically always registering an input, so it's always on 5%, for example, then you need a throttle dead zone. Same for the brake. If you've got a few percentage of brake on, then you're obviously going to be very slow on the straights. Then you want to put a dead zone on. So that's that. Nothing special really. Graphic settings, quite an important one. Personally, a lot of PC players are struggling with FPS issues. If that's the case for you, then turn everything to the lowest possible. So absolutely everything off or ultra low. Now, if you want good graphics and you've got a really strong PC, no issues, make sure to not put on ray traced options. Whenever I put this on, I had huge input lag, so up to you, of course, if you want to do that, but for performance it's very much not ideal. because I started getting that major input lag. So for career mode, I use high and ray tracing off. And then when I'm league racing, I put everything to the lowest possible. Even though, as you can see there, for some reason not everything is going too low. Might be a bug, I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna turn everything completely off. Ultra low, that's the way to go if you want the most FPS possible. Now, on video mode, on the refresh rate, you want 144 Hz. I'm playing on 1440p. Up to you, of course, depends on monitors and stuff like that. How strong is your PC? If your PC is not that strong, probably 1080p is the way to go. VSync off, very important. If you put VSync on, you're limited to 60 FPS, which you don't want. VSync interval, I always use 1. That works well. Anisotropic filtering and anti-aliasing, I always put them to the maximum. Or not maximum, I always use the sharpening, which used to be the maximum a few games ago. I always put this on 16x and this on TAA and Fidelity FX sharpening, as I don't use any FPS, and the viewing distance is just so much better when I've got these settings. So that's why I use these settings. Don't lose FPS, and just looks better. So simple as that. Now onto the audio settings. Today I ran into an issue a lot of people had, which where the audio started stuttering like crazy, and this was the issue basically. As you can see here, increasing the audio quality will significantly increase CPU load. And when I went into an online lobby, I first came across this issue where the audio started stuttering like crazy. Then I turned the audio simulation quality to ultra low, and the issue was resolved basically. So that might be a handy tip to get rid of your audio stuttering. Now master volume, I put it on 3 and everything else on 10. But that's because that's just to balance things out. It's on 0 now, but obviously usually I use 3. Onboard mix driver, speaker type, headphone, engineer ducking off, because if it's on, then once the engineer starts talking, the in-game volume goes down, which I don't want. Now onto this stuff, not very important. You can copy them, but you can have a formation lab parking sensor, but you see the distance you're away from the ideal spot, so I think it's just a little bit distracting. Upshift tone might be handy for some of the beginners. You will hear a tone when you reach the ideal upshift point. I don't use it, I find it annoying. So yeah, multiplayer, mute by default. I've got this on for streams, of course. Can't have people shit talk while I'm streaming. Push to talk off, voice chat ducking off, and then radio verbosity, pretty important one. Responses only, because otherwise, well, it's not Jeff anymore, unfortunately. But otherwise, Jeff or whatever the new guy's name is gonna talk shit randomly in the middle of the race. They still do, but if you put it on responses only, it's gonna be less. Well, this is not very important. Now onto the camera settings. As you can see, I use TV pod. Field of view -6, offset lateral 0, offset horizontal 5, offset vertical 15, angle -20, near clip plane -5, mirror angle 0. But you can change that however you want. Of course, you can see it there in the bottom right changing. I've got it on 0. Very important, camera shake and camera movement, both put them to 0, because they are just so distracting and unnecessary. It's not any more realistic. It's just annoying. So put them to 0, please. So yeah, now for people with FPS issues, it might help changing your field of view to less if you've got FPS issues. This way you use less. This way you use less of your PC capability. I've got no issues, so I keep it on -6, but might be handy putting it lower if you've got issues. You can just try and play around with it, but I've got it on -6. Now on the OSD customization, I basically never change anything apart from this bar right here. You can see the part that's covered in green. I like to have it slightly above the steering wheel, as you can see in a second in game. You can see I just move it up a little bit, so it's just above the steering wheel. Just something I prefer. It's nothing big, but you guys might like it as well. So try it out, and yeah, see how it goes. Now, if you're still having issues with the game and stuttering, try running it as administrator. It might help, might not, but I hope it helps someone that tries it. There's also been an issue where if you plug your pedals directly into your PC, the game was really stuttery. So maybe if you've got, for example, a Fanatec that you can plug into your wheel, it might help. But that was an issue I heard about, so try that maybe. Plugging your pedals into your wheel. You can do it with a lot of pedals and wheels, but for the people that can, try it and maybe it helps. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this F122 settings video. I hope you guys learned something. I helped you guys a little bit with something. I hope you guys got it fixed, whatever issue we're having, and see you guys next time. Ciao.